Do you believe that a simple gesture can transform someone's life and move an entire city? Perhaps amidst the hustle and bustle of everyday life, you've never stopped to think about it, but the truth is that many of the greatest stories of transformation aren't born from grand, planned acts, but rather from small, spontaneous actions. Imagine for a moment a regular supermarket, one you've surely visited dozens of times. People rush past, carrying their full carts, worried about bills, the Glock, and the commitments they still have. Amidst all this almost automatic movement, a scene emerges that breaks the routine and silences even the most distracted. A simple elderly woman, with only a few items in her hands, approaches the cashier and realizes she doesn't have enough money to pay. Have you ever experienced this? That awkward moment when it seems like all eyes are on you, even if silently. This lady experienced exactly that. Her eyes revealed a mixture of shame and despair, as if she didn't know how to resolve the situation. And as so often happens, the atmosphere was one of discomfort. Some customers looked away, others grew impatient, and the line, as always, seemed unstoppable. But it was at that moment, amidst the rush and collective indifference, that something unexpected happened. The cashier, an ordinary young worker, did what many wouldn't dare. She opened her own purse, took the missing money, and paid for the elderly woman's groceries. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because this simple gesture turned into something much bigger than she could have imagined. At first, it seemed like just a quick fix, but the emotional toll it brought on everyone nearby. The silence was broken by the sound of gratitude. The elderly woman, with tears in her eyes, couldn't contain her emotion. The hug she gave the cashier wasn't just a thank you. It was the hug of someone who, for a few minutes, felt seen, respected, and cared for in a world that so often ignored her. And here's the most incredible part of this story. None of this was planned, none of it was made to look like a show. It was simply a genuine moment of compassion. But unbeknownst to the employee, her actions would be witnessed by someone else who would change the course of the scene in an even more dramatic way. Among the customers and employees watching was the supermarket owner, and his reaction brought everyone to tears. Stay with me until the end, because this story goes beyond the kindness of one employee. It speaks to empathy, humanity, and how our decisions, even the smallest ones, can transform into ripples of impact capable of touching thousands of people. It's a powerful reminder that simple gestures have incalculable value. Have you ever imagined how an act that seems small to you can, for someone else, mean hope, dignity, and even the restoration of faith in humanity? This is a story that demonstrates exactly this, and that's why it deserves to be told in every detail. Because when we least expect it, life presents us with situations where we can make a difference in someone's life. And when we choose to act, we not only change someone else's day, but we also touch ourselves in a way we'll never forget. Now, I want to take you even deeper into this emotional scene, because what happened after this simple gesture will show how far a heart willing to help can go. And perhaps the most moving thing about this scene is realizing how something so simple can carry so much meaning. The cashier not only paid for the groceries, she restored to that elderly woman a sense of dignity and care that's often lacking in situations like this. And this is precisely where I want to open up space for you. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. It could be a personal memory, a similar experience you've had, or even the emotion this story evoked in you. Your voice matters, because each comment creates a space for exchange and inspiration that further strengthens this community. And do you know why this is so important? Because when you like this video and subscribe to the channel, you're not just supporting this content, You're helping this message reach more people who, like you, may need a reminder today about the power of empathy and kindness. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and spreads inspiring human stories that make us reflect and believe in each other more. So, if this scene touched your heart, show it to me. Interact. Be part of this movement. What happened after this gesture will move you even more. The supermarket was as busy as any ordinary afternoon. Packed carts lined the aisles, mothers pulled restless children along, hurried workers checked their watches while balancing bags, and cash registers dinged constantly, ringing up purchases ranging from basics to superfluous items. The scene was mundane, almost automatic. People focused on their own commitments, their own concerns, going about their daily routines without noticing their surroundings. But amidst this hustle and bustle, a discreet presence caught their attention. It was a simple woman, with slow steps and a weary look, carrying few items in her hands. They were basic, essential items, nothing particularly expensive, but for her, they meant sustenance. While most people were distractedly looking at their phones or hurriedly organizing their shopping carts, the elderly woman walked carefully, as if each step were measured. Her posture conveyed a mix of dignity and fragility, like someone who had faced many silent battles in life. There was no rush in her gaze, but there was a weight that could be felt even without words. The checkout line moved normally, each customer in their own bubble, until the woman reached the counter. She placed the few items on the conveyor belt with a calmness that contrasted with the hurried pace around her. To many, she might have seemed just another customer, but in that moment, there was an entire story contained in her simple gesture of placing her groceries in front of the clerk. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic because this contrast between the collective movement and the elderly woman's discreet presence reveals something important about our mindset. How many times have we passed through crowded places where everyone seems isolated in their haste without realizing that among so many people, there might be someone fighting an invisible battle? This scene reveals the hidden truth we often prefer to ignore, that life is full of stories hidden in silent glances and modest bags. We don't need words to sense that there was something greater than simple shopping. It was the basic need that carried with it the dignity of those who, even in difficult times, tried to live with a minimum of normality. It's remarkable how ordinary environments, like a supermarket, can become the stage for major revelations. The simple act of buying food can bring to light the inequality that permeates so many lives. For some, filling the cart is routine. For others, each product removed from the shelf is the result of difficult decisions, meticulous calculations, and silent sacrifices. That elderly woman with her few items represented exactly this, the struggle of those who choose the essentials because they can't afford anything else. And this scenario, so common and seemingly banal, was about to transform into something extraordinary. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The elderly woman watched intently as each item was passed through the register. The sound of the scanner registering item by item seemed louder than usual, almost as if amplifying her anxiety. When the cashier announced the total amount, the number became an unbearable weight. The woman opened her small purse with trembling hands, removing a few folded bills and carefully tucked coins, but soon realized there wasn't enough money. Her eyes, which until then had tried to disguise firmness, began to reflect anguish. It was as if, in that moment, all her vulnerability was exposed to strangers. The line behind her fell silent. The mood changed immediately. The din of side conversations dissolved into an uncomfortable silence, where everyone seemed to realize the gravity of the scene, but no one knew how to react. Some looked away, pretending not to see, as if that were less painful than facing it. Head on, Others watched discreetly with compassion, but lacking the courage to act. The woman, for her part, continued fiddling with the coins as if she could multiply them with the touch of her hands, while trying to find a way out. It was the invisible struggle of those who wanted to maintain their dignity, but faced with the harsh revelation of not being able to pay for basic necessities. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this moment carries a hidden truth that we often overlook. The missing money didn't just represent the difference between paying or not paying for certain products, but symbolized something much greater: the vulnerability that thousands of people face daily in silence. That scene was a stark portrait of a reality that often remains hidden behind the scenes in society. How often do we pass by someone experiencing exactly this kind of situation without even realizing it? And even more so, how often do we judge without understanding the journey that lies behind that embarrassed look? This moment also makes us reflect on mindset and impact. For the elderly woman, the missing amount might seem small to some, but for her, it meant the difference between taking home food or not. And this detail brings to light a powerful revelation. Life is often measured not by grand events, but by small gestures and seemingly trivial decisions. It is in these moments that we discover human fragility and, at the same time, the possibility of transformation. What's most striking is how the entire environment was affected. The supermarket, previously noisy and bustling, became a stage for a dense silence charged with expectation. The woman's embarrassment reverberated in every witness, as if they were all part of the same story. The emotional impact was not only in the old woman's gaze, but in the reflection that gaze provoked in others. It was a silent invitation to empathy, an unspoken question. What if it were you? It's curious to think how moments like these can reveal more about humanity than long speeches. The silence in the line wasn't just discomfort, it was also a mirror. There, each person was confronted with their own conscience, with the decision to act or remain inactive. This is the power that small scenes carry. They have the power to disarm, to awaken compassion, to provoke profound revelations about ourselves. Comment there. That makes sense to me. It was in this heavy, awkward silence that something unexpected happened. The cashier, who until then had simply been ringing up items with the same old routine, took a deep breath, looked at the woman, and made a decision that would change not only that moment, but also the way everyone present would view life from then on. Without hesitation, she discreetly opened her purse, removed some crumpled bills, and, with a simple gesture, handed over the remaining amount. She paid with her own hands for the purchases the elderly woman couldn't complete. It was as if she had decided to break the barrier of indifference that imprisoned the scene, offering not only money, but dignity, respect, and a powerful reminder of humanity. The impact was immediate. The elderly woman, who had been trying to hide her tears of embarrassment until then, let her emotions overflow. Her teary eyes met the employees, and in that moment, there were no words to express what that gesture meant. She hadn't just received the chance to take her products home. She had also received something priceless, the certainty that there are still people willing to see beyond appearances, beyond the cold numbers on the cash register. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this kind of attitude reveals a hidden truth about our collective journey. The employee wasn't wealthy, nor was she in a position of financial abundance. She was just an ordinary worker, likely with her own bills to pay, her own challenges to face. And that's precisely what makes her decision even more powerful. Compassion isn't born from surplus, but from the conscious choice to share what little one has. This gesture shows that kindness doesn't depend on perfect circumstances, but on mindset. It's a decision that often requires courage, The courage to go against the grain, to put oneself out there, to care in a world that so often insists on being indifferent. The entire atmosphere changed in that instant. People who had previously been impatient or distracted were overcome. With a mixture of surprise and admiration, some lowered their heads, reflecting on their own decisions and how many times they might have acted similarly. Others simply watched in silence, their eyes welling up. It was as if that employee had lit a flame that everyone felt, but few dared to reveal. The previously heavy atmosphere now became light, almost hopeful, as if the supermarket had become a stage for profound revelations. And the curious thing is that at that moment, no one was thinking about the value itself. The money was irrelevant compared to the emotional impact. What was deeply moving was the employee's courage to act when everyone else remained silent. And this detail is crucial. The transformation isn't in the size of the gesture, but in the decision not to remain silent in the face of another's pain. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. You said, the woman remained silent for a moment, as if unable to believe what had just happened. Her watery eyes filled with tears she no longer tried to hide. It was as if all the weight accumulated during her journey had found, in that unexpected gesture, a way to dissolve. She brought her hands to her face, trying to contain her emotion, but soon lowered them, and almost without strength, extended her arms to the employee. The hug that followed was not just a gesture of gratitude. It was the pure expression of a soul that in that moment felt embraced in its vulnerability. There was no rehearsal, no flowery words, just the raw truth of a heart that said more through silence than through words. The words she managed to utter were simple, yet charged with meaning. Through sobs and tears, she quietly thanked him, repeating how much that act had saved her day, perhaps her week. It was as if each syllable was laden with untold stories, silent battles, and a life that, even marked by hardship, still knew how to recognize the beauty of kindness. Those around her didn't need much to grasp the magnitude of that moment. The supermarket, which minutes before had seemed ordinary, became the setting for a revelation. The hidden truth that compassion has the power to restore something that goes far beyond material needs. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the elderly woman's reaction reveals an important facet of our collective journey. Often it's not the object itself that matters, but what it represents. Those paid purchases meant food, yes, but they also meant dignity, respect, a reminder that she wasn't invisible. And when someone who feels forgotten by the world is remembered, something inside them transforms. It's as if a sliver of hope is rekindled. This shows us that transformation isn't just about offering, but also about allowing others to feel seen, heard, and valued. The impact of this scene wasn't limited to the woman and the employee. Every customer who watched witnessed a silent revelation, confronted with their own decisions and attitudes. Some discreetly wiped their eyes, others simply stared, as if transported into that truth. And this is the power of human stories. They break through the barrier of indifference and force us to reflect on the mindset we've cultivated. How many times do we fail to act because we think it wouldn't be enough? And how many times do we fail to realize that for others, the little we offer can be everything? That embrace, so full of emotion, was more than just a meeting between two people. It was a symbol of connection, of humanity, and a reminder that we're all on the same journey. It broke the rhythm of haste, silenced everyday worries, and brought to the surface what truly matters. And perhaps that's precisely what explains why so many people left there different, carrying with them the mark of that moment. Right there, I'm on this journey too. While the elderly woman was still holding the employee's hands tightly in a gesture of sincere gratitude, something unexpected happened. The supermarket owner, who had been observing the scene closely, approached silently. Many expected him to reprimand the employee for acting without asking permission. After all, in the business world, profit often seems to trump compassion. Instead, his reaction surprised everyone and completely changed the course of the story. With an emotional look on his face, he addressed not only the woman, but everyone present, and declared that, from that moment on, all the elderly woman's expenses would be covered by the store itself. More than that, he made a point of highlighting the employee's courage, praising her compassion aloud in front of customers and colleagues. The atmosphere was filled with indescribable emotion. It wasn't just the elderly woman who was crying now, but also people in line, employees, and even those who, at first, had watched the scene with haste or indifference. The revelation of this collective gesture of humanity broke the barriers of routine and clearly demonstrated how our decisions can have an impact far beyond what we imagine. The owner, who could have chosen to remain distant, chose to join that chain of kindness, expanding the reach of a simple gesture into something much greater. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this episode reveals important insights into mindset and leadership. By publicly recognizing the employee, the owner not only valued her attitude, but also showed everyone present a hidden truth: that compassion doesn't weaken a company. On the contrary, it strengthens its essence. The impact of that decision extended beyond the store, echoing as an example that business and humanity can go hand in hand. It was a powerful revelation that challenged the cold logic of the market and showed that ultimately people are more important than numbers. This attitude also leads us to reflect on transformation. A simple act of kindness from the employee multiplied when the owner decided to act. The journey that began with the elderly woman distressed about not having enough money ended in a scene that restored everyone's faith in humanity. It's as if, in that moment, each person was reminded that there's still room for different, more humane, and more conscious choices. This kind of decision creates an impact because it awakens in those who witness it the courage to also act. And perhaps most striking is realizing that the collective emotion came not just from the act of paying for groceries, but from the public recognition of kindness. It was as if the owner was saying loud and clear that in that supermarket, compassion would not be hidden, but celebrated. This revelation was what made so many people cry, not from sadness, but from hope. And hope is, without a doubt, the force that moves us when we believe that the world can still be transformed by small but powerful actions. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The supermarket, which until just a few minutes ago was just another space of rush, piled up purchases and automatic routines, transformed into a stage charged with emotion. When the store owner decided not only to cover the elderly woman's expenses but also to acknowledge the employee's actions out loud, something extraordinary happened. A collective impact swept over everyone. Customers who had previously been in a rush, concerned only with finishing their shopping, now had tears in their eyes. Many didn't even try to hide their tears. Some applauded spontaneously as if the gesture had broken through an invisible barrier, separating them from their own sensibilities. The sound of applause echoed through the room, and for a few moments, no one remembered the lines, the bills to pay, or the rush that had brought them there. There was only a shared sense of hope, of relief, of the realization that humanity, even amidst so much negative news, still had something to offer. It was as if everyone present had received not only a spectacle of generosity, but an invitation to look at their own daily decisions and reflect on how many opportunities to act with compassion they had already missed. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic because this moment reveals a hidden truth about the power that exists in community. When a gesture of kindness is revealed, it impacts not only the recipient or the performer, it expands, touches witnesses, inspires hearts, and provokes silent revelations in each person present. The ripple effect of empathy can cross social, professional, and even cultural barriers. There, in that supermarket, no one was just a customer or an employee. Everyone was part of a shared journey, everyone connected by an invisible thread that united their emotions in the face of what they had witnessed. What stuck in the memory of those who were there wasn't the price paid for their purchases, nor even the owner's words, but the feeling that something inside them had changed. It was as if, for a few moments, the rush had been replaced by the awareness that we are all on the same journey and that small acts of courage and empathy can rekindle what we so often think is lost: faith in others. This is the transformation that arises when a simple gesture shines a light on the hearts of many. It ceases to be just an isolated incident and becomes a reference, a beacon capable of inspiring new behaviors. The tears in the eyes of those present were not only of emotion, but also of liberation. Liberation from indifference, from the belief that nothing can be done in the face of another's difficulties. It was as if each person there had received a revelation that the impact of their own choices can be far greater than they imagine. This is the power of stories like this. They transcend the moment and become seeds that germinate at different moments in the lives of those who witness them. Comment there. That makes sense to me. What if you were in that supermarket line, watching the elderly woman with trembling hands, trying to count out coins that weren't enough? Would you have the courage to act? This question may seem simple, but it carries enormous weight when we consider our own mindset in everyday situations. We often believe that to make an impact, we need great resources, heroic gestures, or ideal conditions. But the hidden truth is that small actions, when born of genuine compassion, have the power to generate gigantic transformations. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic because this kind of reflection reveals a lot about the journey each of us is on. The employee was no different from anyone listening to this story right now. She had her responsibilities, her behind-the-scenes work full of bills to pay, worries that perhaps no one there knew about. But in that moment, she made a decision not to let indifference dominate the environment. This choice shows us how a simple act can become a turning point, not only in the life of the recipient, but also in the lives of those who perform it and even those who witness it. This is the power of transformation. It begins in a tiny, almost invisible spot, but spreads in waves that reach unimaginable places. How many times have you been faced with someone who needed help and, out of fear or complacency, decided not to act? And how many times have you been surprised by the gesture of another who, with a simple word or action, completely changed the course of your day? It's in these moments that we realize how each decision carries with it a potential for impact far greater than we imagine. This story invites us to break the logic that kindness is a privilege for the few. It shows that, deep down, we all have the power to transform realities with what we have at hand, even if it's little. It's the mindset that makes the difference, because in the end, it's not about how much you give, but the courage you have to care. The employee's gesture multiplied because it wasn't limited to the elderly woman. It reached all. The customers present, touched the store owner, and later, through the story, reached thousands of people. This is the power of the journey of compassion. It never ends where it began. When reflecting on this, perhaps the most important question isn't just, what if you were in the employee's shoes, but also, what if you were in the elderly woman's shoes? Because life, in its complexity, places us sometimes as those who need to extend a hand, sometimes as those who need to receive it. Recognizing this duality makes us more human, more attentive to the needs that circulate around us. This is the revelation this scene offers us. Compassion is not just a virtue, it is a mindset choice that changes the way we relate to the world. Right there. I'm on this journey too. If you've made it this far, it's because this story spoke directly to your heart. And that's why I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories that, like this one, have the power to inspire, move, and transform the way we see the world. Also, leave a like, because it shows that this connection we've created here truly resonated with you. And so I know you stuck with me until the very end. Write in the comments the phrase, "I'm with you until the end." It will be incredible to see how many people are walking together on this journey of empathy and hope. And since we're talking about transformation, there's a video right here that complements this message and will take you even deeper into this topic. Click and stay with me there.